our journey. And since it's about, okay, participation, we will already start with make you participate into the session. So I would like to ask you in which order you would like to have and to learn all the information that you are going to receive in this session by, for instance, what do you want to, what and why you are going to learn, who will be in this learning moment, and how you would like to receive and how this course will be structured. So here you have a Mentimeter, a QR code that you can scan and reply in which order you want. Does make more sense to you to receive information about this training. I will jump into the Mentimeter and see if you are already replying. I give you just few minutes more that we can jump again to the presentation and start with what you would like to know and learn first. So what is this course about? Okay, so here we are. So this course is about access and participation and is part of the training course of the project, iBox projects. That is a project related to inclusive, to increase and share practices of inclusive educational approaches. We can, the project is composed of 3 different modules and learning sessions. And one is the one that you are attending now, access and participation, managed and coordinated by Learning for Wellbeing Foundation, that I will talk about further, and I'm part of. Then there will be another about diversity and inclusion with our partner and the other partner of CEMEA. And the third one of digital transition, coordinated by All Digital. Aside of these partners, there are other 2 more partners, the coordinators, that is Lifelong Learning Platform, and also AOSN, that is for evaluation and quality assurance. We will have different format of learning. You are attending now the online one, that is the second sessions. I mean, we already had some online workshop before the summer, and we had also the self-paced course, and we had an in-person workshop last June in Brussels. All this, so the previous online workshop, the self-paced course, and also information about the in-person workshop you can have in the e-learning platform hosted by All Digital, and all the details about how to access and log in and how to dive into the platform and the iBox learning course you have received in the mail that we share with you already, and also in the mail after the end of this modules, when we will share with you slides and results of these courses. In the framework of the iBox project, there are a compendium of good practices where we have included, let's say, best practices on inclusion in educational settings by following this perspective: access and participation, diversity, inclusion, and digital transition. And we have also developed a charter. All this information you can access also and discover further on the website. As learning for well-being, just this, since it's the one who is in charge of access and participation, and it's us that are delivering these courses. For us, what Learning for Wellbeing Foundation does, and the vision of Learning for Wellbeing Foundation, it's a world where every child can fulfill their unique potential. We look at this vision by following an holistic approach on well-being. We believe that participation is an important part of well-being, and of course, we focus a lot on education, especially for reform in educational systems, and by including, of course, well-being and participation aspects. Me, as I was saying, I'm Chiara Piccolo. I'm from Learning for Wellbeing Foundation, and I'm Italian, as you can see from my accent in English. And I always say that I come from Napoli, Naples, that for me, I attended there my primary and secondary school education and also university background. And as I used to say, Napoli is also living in Napoli, it's also a learning environment, a good learning environment to live into. I started working very young, when I was 16, as a swimming teacher, but then I started working in the social environment, in the social welfare, for disadvantaged children in a social cooperative, to take care of children in foster care and who lives in disadvantaged context. Then I moved to Brussels because I wanted to bring some, I want to make a bridge between Europe and the continents where I was working. And then I stayed and joined the Learning for Wellbeing Foundation. So we now start to make you understand what how we are going to start the module and what is the purpose of this first module. It's now just to describe the key points related to the access and participation from rights and well-being perspective. And in this session, we will focus especially on that. But then there will be another module next Monday, and we really appreciate if you can follow the 3 modules, because they are, as you can see, strictly linked to each other, and it's a block of learning outcome. So you will drive and block participation in learning from a holistic and systemic perspective, and will be more interactive and participatory. And of course, plan and compare practices in the 3rd module that support participation and well-being, and apply a set of principles to strengthen participation in learning environments. This is where you really would make a bridge and a link between what you do in your studies, in your work, in your organization, and how this model can improve or increase and enrich your working in terms of participation. And of course, as I said, you will receive the slides, session recording, and you can go deeper into the self-paced courses. There is another session in November that is this one. So let's start with diving in access and participation module and definition of access and participation. Why I'm talking about definition? Because there are access and participation can see from different perspectives. Now we would like to hear from you what is your, in one word, how, or many words, but just use one word, what you associate with access and participation. In a way, what is the meaning that you give to access and participation when you talk about access and participation? Now I open again the Mentimeter to see, okay. your response. I'm happy to see that all these words that I see you you wrote into the Mentimeters will be tackled during our presentation. Okay. Thank you to have replied. And now I'm glad to introduce you and then I can go and try to guide you on what access and participation, how we see as learning for well-being, and we apply as learning for well-being, access and participation in the different learning environments. So we have learner, and we are really, as you can have seen from our vision, we would like that every child can reach their unique potential. And every learner, as a child or as an adult, as any human being. And as any human being, our aim is to realize our own unique potential. And we see our life as a learning process, of course, that we can, because we can be in any moment in a learning environment, has a moment to realize our uniqueness and unique potential. And this, there are learning opportunities. And we could, as I said, live and be able to access learning opportunities in different ways. As I was saying, the learning opportunity is in every part of our life, but there are some learning opportunities that we consider more formal, informal setting, that needs some more tools and environment and structure to be more accessible for all. Why I say it for all? Because of course, every learner has his own diversity and has different profile and can access in different way to the learning opportunity, to structure learning opportunities. These opportunities that, as I was saying, can be both digital and in person, and we are mentioning now, we were tackling now learning opportunities that are those more really structured and formal and non-formal, of course. We could, when we talk about accessibility, we say that we have the learner that is out of this, as I see, circle. And here there is the point where accessibility is. This could be in terms of structure, as I will say, if it's in person, so everybody can access the learning opportunity, the learning environment, because we provide different structure to be more accessible, the school, for instance, or if we talk about also non-formal environment, we could allow some non-formal education providers more closer and accessible for those on disadvantaged contexts, and etc. So as far as we trying to make the learning opportunity closer to the learner diversity, we provide more accessibility to the learning opportunity. And of course, this means that this is a process, this is always a challenge to be more and more accessible. And as far as we bring the learner closer to the point of accessibility, we make the learner able to attend and to enjoy the learning opportunity. And there is a driver of inclusion, as I was saying. So as much as we provide structures and tools according to diversity of profile, we are moving more closer to the inclusion, and allow more people to enjoy the learning opportunity and to express own unique potential. But of course, this is not, I was saying, a fixed point. So and the reason why we put narrows on exclusion and inclusivity, because we can decide to move the limit of accessibility also to be more and more inclusive and try to provide tools and structures even more open and available for all, to let everybody can join the learning opportunities. And this is where we are going to, we see access and participation increasing. This is what we would like to apply in different learning opportunities. Always bring and drive the accessibility point even more to inclusivity and not versus exclusion. How we can do that? Of course, the inclusivity has different way of allow learning opportunities more inclusive for all. So we can provide generalized approach, differentiated and personalized. As much as we can merge those, we can come back and be again more and more inclusive, creating more and more inclusive environment. Generalized, we said, as I said, we can provide and not only in terms of structure, infrastructure to make the learning opportunity more accessible for all, but we can provide also other facilities or tools to make this accessibility more, for instance, not only remove all the barriers in terms of infrastructure, but also provide bus or public transportation for those who live far from the learning opportunities. So it could be differentiated. So it will be linked on the needs of a specific context. For instance, as I was saying, maybe we are talking about a learning opportunity in school or also a no formal organization, educational providers, such as could be also the sport activity or the sport club, more and more accessible, and bring that and taking some action and providing some tools to make these environments, specific environments, local environments, more and more inclusive. And then we can have also personalized tools and approach, and of course, provide more personalized support. All this that could be, for instance, there are specific cases that needs, more tools to be put in place, like, for instance, not only infrastructure, but also digital environment or digital service, digital devices to make them more inclusive and in a way of being can participate in the learning environment. So as you can see here, we have one main circle that is the learning opportunities, and a circle upside that is the learners. And this arrow is really the process through which we bring learning into the learning opportunities. But we could be even more and more inclusive in our learning opportunity. We could allow also everybody in who is part of this learning opportunity participate into the process. And we could have, it's where we talk about participation. And participation also can be in different can be put in place in different way and different levels. We could participate, and we can consider participation as attendees, so be part of this learning opportunity and learning process and environment, or be engaged into the learning opportunity. So having more influence, a say on the opportunity and the process. But then we would like to add also another aspect of participation, that is power over the decision. So aside of having an aspect of participation as attendees or as engagement, we could influence with participation. And this is where we can have power over the decision. And this is with what we mean participation as influence. So this means that I'm not only participating as attendants in the environment, I not only have a say in these environments, I could influence the process. Now we have talked about the different way of making environment more inclusive. We have said that we could have different, to make this environment more inclusive, we need to, in a way, link with learner profilers and learner diversity, and we could have different also way to consider participation and way to consider of the learning in participated in the learning opportunities. But then we said also that we could have also power of the decision, and we need to take care of the diversity of the learner, because according to the profile, there is different level of power that every learning can have. And this is where we are going to introduce now. So the point of departure where every learner has, and it depends of this point of departure depends from where is in the wheel of the power and privilege. This is a wheel that we took from a resources that you will have in your resources package, and it's a wheel of power and privilege, wheel of power, privilege, and marginalized by Sylvia Duckworth. And you can see here it's where in the middle there is where is the power, but then it depends. For instance, if we go on a specific of the inner diversity of every learner, it depends of, for instance, of the temperament of a people, of a person, of a learner, for instance, that is introvert, could have more difficulties in having a saying and put in place his agency. And so it could be farther than where the power is, when he could it could give his power. And of course, there are, if we go more to the center of the power, an extrovert, of course, can be more comfortable in having saying, and so having a bit of more power of decision. And of course, the ambivert that have more, it's closer to the center, it could have more power on that. So as you can see, it depends, our power and every power of every learner depends of, is in a way, background, his profile. And this is we need to take into account. We need to take into account when we saw, for instance, in the previous slide, the difference between inclusivity, the difference between the inclusivity that could be generalized, diverse, and personalized, and also the way how we allow participation. It depends on, and we need to take care of the diversity of every learner, and we need to be curious of this diversity by increasing always, by inquire ourselves on the discovering what is the need, specific need of every learner, and how we can match this need. So this is why diversity is inquiry, to be aware of differences and their impact, to find natural language to describe the differences, and to identify ways, strategies to meet the needs of self, others, and the environment. As I was saying, to be aware of the difference, it's the way how we increase inclusivity. And to find natural language to describe those differences, it's not only a matter of a verbal languages that sometimes can be also an obstacle and barrier for accessibility, but it's also to discover that there are different levels of communication, and sometimes we need to pay attention of other way of learning can communicate who they are. That could be physical, that could be emotional, and of course, identify ways, strategies to meet the needs of self, others, and the environment, because the learning process, as we say, it depends on several aspects. It depends of diversity of the learners. It depends of the diversity of educators and teachers, and depends of the environment. As we said, we could apply different tools and approach if we are in the formal settings in a school, or we are in no formal setting or informal settings. This is something that it's very keen and important to increase accessibility and participation. So now, another question, since I'm talking too much and I need to stop a bit, because otherwise I tend to, as Napolitana said, I tend to talk too much, and I need also drink a bit of water. So I would like to ask you and involve you in participate into this module and training moment and learning opportunity with these other questions on Mentimeters. What aspect of your diversity most impacted your ability to fully enjoy learning opportunity until now? So take back your memory when you have had a learning opportunity and you felt that you really recognize, wow, I'm like I am, and I can, and this allow me to learn and fulfill myself in a different, and enjoy the learning opportunity in my way. So I will come back to Mentimeter, reply, I refresh. Okay, I will, I don't want to take myself as an example, but for instance, if it could get help. The aspect of my diversity that most impacted my ability to fulfill enjoying learning opportunity was, for instance, that I was too emotional. And by taking again back the temperament, for instance, I always, what I used to be seen as an extrovert person, but in reality, I'm very shy. And so I always gave the impression that I'm so full of joy and enthusiasm. Why inside of me, I was always scared. And this is also what impacted me a lot during my learning process, because it was difficult for my teachers to understand how I was. But luckily, I remember I had a good teacher in secondary school who understood this and allowed me to reach the end of my secondary school course. Otherwise, probably I would have failed. So my visual impairment, this is really first feeling in my safe zone as I was. Being emotional, I know, too shy, lack of self-confidence. Lack of self-confidence, and self-belief, too much empathy, the relationship with teacher, neurodiversity, yeah. Oh, imposter syndrome, feelings of legitimacy, or feeling of legitimacy, transforming from being introverted to be ambivalent. I don't see all the... Okay, ambivert. Now trying to need to nurture both parts. Other replies. Lack of... Okay, I give you a few more seconds. And then yes, for me too, the imposter syndrome, especially for my work. That also the work is a learning environment. Dyscalculia and fear to math. Voila. Okay. No one? Other in the chat? No. So I will come back to the... No, there are other. I will come back to the main slide. And before going further, making the case of participation, since we have already had 2 long sessions, I would like to ask you if everything is fine for you. You have questions, you want to have a more clarification. For instance, during my presentation on access and participation, I was trying to match it with what you wrote about your consideration, a perspective through which access and participation, and I've seen that there were a lot of meaning in inclusion, commitment, diversity, power, and I hope that you have in a bit recognized those perspectives in what I was saying. And if you have questions, I don't see the chat, so if there are any questions in the chat, okay, so this means that everything is clear? Thanks, great. Everyone, no, I'm curious if since when you were discussing, you were feeling the Mentimeter, I was explaining, I was sharing with you my experience. If someone wants to share by saying by voice his or her experiences, it could be nice, so I don't feel alone. I saw that there are, for instance, a lot of self-confidence, and this is really an important point to be considered, and this is why we need to look and inquire always to ourselves about diversity, of the inner diversity of every learner that we have in front of us, or not in front of, but we relate with. Okay. And for instance, I'm very happy that there are no questions. This means that I was not clear enough and people didn't follow me, or I was very clear, and this is for me, for instance, it's a success factor because I always fear that I'm not clear enough. Just to make a link on what we were saying before, where my diversity impact in my learning environment. Okay, so we can go Okay, I'm talking too much, so I would like to have a reaction from my participants.
I can have a reaction if you
Yes.
want. No,
Even with a tab up.
Oh yeah, I will do that as well. So no, I think everything was clear, and thank you so much. And I think that it's super interesting reflecting to our own learning and what help us and what refrain us to learn. And I think there is so many possible answer, and every aspect has a role to play. So I think that in my case, it can be the fact that I'm shy, then it could, yeah, it didn't help. Learning preferences, sometimes it helps, sometimes not. So now I know that some kind of way to pass content suits me better than others, but took me time to learn that. So now I think I can have a more active role in my learning comparing when I was a child. And then of course also the access to content and learning is very important. So I was lucky to yeah to being able to access most of the learning opportunity that were interesting for me. But of course that can be a big obstacle. And I will leave the floor to somebody else.
Thank you. Does anyone want to take the floor? Otherwise, I would say that in the next modules, you can also enter more in detail on one practice is that we, as the Learning for Wellbeing, we are running about how to apply personalized education in school context. That it's not easy when you have big classes and one teacher to try to have as much as possible personalized education. And this practice is called 3D, and you will learn about more about these practices in the next modules. And as Learning for Wellbeing, for instance, we look at the inner diversity, especially following the way how every human being function, and every human being is it's composed of emotional and mental and physical qualities. And we also stress on the fact that we are also, as every human being, part of a spiritual dimension that allow us to feel connected with ourselves, the others, and the environment. And this is how we try to look at children and learners. Be always aware that we all have same capacities, same innate capacities, but we function in a different way. Okay, I can go ahead with the presentation. So let's try now to understand how we can put in place participation. We have talked about the meaning of the purpose of participation. But then there are different ways to put in practice participation. And here is where, I mean, this image, it's really well known, and it's representing the differences between equality and equity with 3 different kids watching a football match behind a barrier. So when every one of them, even they are different in the tall, in the height, how tall they are, if they have the same blocks, someone can see better, another one can see a bit more, and still there could be someone who still cannot see the football match. But if we talk about equity, we talk about the fact that we are matching with the diversity of the profile of the learner. And so we can provide the tools, the approach, the methods, the methodology for every one of them to watch properly the football match. So we give what they need according to what their different background, different way of functioning, as we were saying. So participation, we said, is a right, but it's a right that can have also well-being aspect that can allow us to reach our well-being. And we know that as adults also, but also as children, we feel better if we can feel that someone hear and listen us, not only by listening, but also with the heart and also with an empathy approach, an empathized approach. So participation is a right. It's a human right. It's a relationship between duty bearers and rights holder. It's dignity. Realize other rights related to the protection and provision. But it's always, as I was saying, a matter of well-being. Because participation, it's a condition for learning and development. Because if I feel myself into the learning environment, I'm always more motivated in following and in listening and in learning, in my learning process, and of course in my development. And relationship between learning and its ecosystem, that is the educators, that is the teacher, but it's also the environment, the climate around, the school climate of the environment, the agency. So what I say, I mean, someone is taking care of what I'm saying and take action following that. Fulfilled needs for autonomy, belonging, and competences. So as we have the Charter of Children's Rights, the United Nations Children's Rights Charter, saying that participation is a right, we would like to add more. Not only it's a right, it's a matter to reach our and children and learning well-being. So what is the outcomes of participation in learning for individual, for every one of us? I mean, improve our well-being, I was saying, improving teaching and learning, and improving also teacher well-being and learning climate well-being. Development of life skills such as teamwork, problem solving, but also listening, empathizing, discovering, reflecting. Improving engagement, empowerment, and commitment to education. I have a power on my learning process, and this is something that it's very important for me to keep on learning aside of my difficulties, because I have someone who understood what is my difficulty in this sense, and I can rely on that. And improve achievement and attainment. In matters of institutional, so having having individuals who feel better, who feel be heard, who feel engaged, who feel empathized, means a better school ethos, great sense of shared community, because it will increase also parents' involvement in the learning process of their children and learners, in case we are talking about children. Also, other part of the community are around the learning setting. If we talk about non-formal settings, for instance, a sport club, if we have people who feel welcomed in that environment, we can rely on the entire community. For instance, sponsor of a sport club can support activities and pay for those who have less access to the sport club. Improved educational services and policies, improved guidance and support. Interpersonal, of course, we have talked about a lot. about relationship and improving pupil-teacher relationship, child staff, and peer-to-peer relations. Be heard, be welcomed. It's very important for everyone, for teachers and for students. A reciprocal sense of feeling valued, trusted, and respected. And of course, societal and addressing of the attainment gap between learners from more and less deprived backgrounds, engaged citizenship, as we were saying before, taking as example the sport club, just not to talk about only to schools. So, unpacking participation in learning environment. Are there any questions in the chat? No raise hand? Okay, I will go. So, participation in learning. As we said, we can have different way how participation is put in place. And according to the meaning that we give to participation, the why we want to participation into the learning opportunity. We can learn through participation. So taking participation as a process, as a methodology, example, project-based learning. So everybody participate into the process. But we can learn for participation, for civic engagement, so political education of freedom, so providing information and also practices that participation in, it's important to make a better world. Learning about participation, so awareness and understanding, political science. So what is the for instance, the law for elections, for instance. This is how participation is about participation. Participation in decision about learning education. So this is where influence is. The school conference, council, differentiated education. So here it's where, as we were saying before, about power over the decision, where we could have influence with our participation. But before going to these questions, I would like to also stay on this, because as you can see here, you have different way, and it's a way linked to the first Mentimeter we had, no? We have different words, some saying that participating into learning process, others say engagement, others say that making some, be involved into the activities. So all what you have said before, all the different words, in a way, as you were right, it's part of it, participation, but it's a different perspective through which we can see participation. And now I would like to open again the floor, but since we are a lot, I'm wondering if someone wants to share with us your intention for participation learning. So what is your why? Why you would like to have participation into the learning environment? And before going to the break. So what is your why? Not only why it's important, because engagement, why you want participation, what is your purpose for participation? Is to decide the content, is to make them engaged, is to make them learn how to participate. Anyone wants to share before the break? What is your experience? It's in dealing with participation. It's learning through participation, for participation. For instance, we, as Learning for Wellbeing, we work a lot in taking the perspective of participation as intergenerational partnership. So this means that for us, it's really a matter of power sharing between learner and teacher, but also between adults and children. And to do that, we look at the diversity, first making us aware on how we function, so allow us to be open to understand and inquire ourselves who we have in front of us, if it's a child or another adult, but see, making, having a sharing of power with participation. Anyone wants to share the way how you look at participation in your organization or in your
Maybe I can
in your daily life?
break the ice.
Yes, please.
Okay. Well,
Can you introduce your name?
I'm Elisa. I'm a trainer, and I'm here. We can say representing their network. It's a network that work on democracy and human rights education in Europe. We work with teachers, trainers, youth people, youth workers about these topics. And I mean, in my experience, participation is the best way if and when you want to develop competencies. So it's something that help in a training process to shift from knowledge to competencies. And foresee the way of activate learners. So when learners are not passive and it can contribute to knowledge building and creation, and that's for me, in my experience, is a very big change in the way we approach the learning processes. And of course, linking to the contents, all these different approaches are linked, because when you tackle civic education and you do with the participative methodology, is something that give more understanding and a proper way to involve, not only when we talk, for example, in intergenerational setting, not only learners as students, but also teachers, and educate adults on how to behave in a like horizontal way in learning process. Well, I stop here.
Thank you, Elisa. Indeed, you spotted well that this it's not only that it's not the fact that we have 4 different blocks of participation, but, and we will see in the next, after the break, in the next session, that we can have these different ways of implementing participation in different steps of the learning process and the learning opportunity. But we will explain more in details after the break. So thank you, Elisa. Thank you so much. Any other who dealing with participation in their own activities, or they would like to share the way how?
Perhaps I can share my experience.
Please go ahead.
So I'm Elena, I'm from the Foundation for European Progressive Studies, and I'm training and project coordinator. So I'm not a trainer myself, even if sometimes I have to act too. I'm more like dealing with the projects and coming with the projects with the member foundations and sister organizations. So as a think tank, I would say that we do learning for participation, more in the case of young politicians or even senior politicians also that participate in our projects, also in the case of political activists. But we have also a very important component that is learning about participation, that I think this is the learning projects we have with the academics. For example, we have a network of young academics network, so that they see the participation like, yes, they are more political science oriented than the daily politics. So, but as I agree with the other participant, Elisa, I think she was, sorry, I forgot the name now. Yes, Elisa. I agree that I think like all the ways you list are linked, and at the end, one does not exist without the other one.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you so much. So we have heard two participants dealing with civic engagement, democratic life, participation, young activists. No one from school or no formal settings?
We have a lot of teachers from formal education and a lot of youth work as well. So I hope that somebody will share their experience.
What is your way to include or to make your learner participate into your school activities? No one? Be aware that we could also take you as good practices, include your practices in our iBox list of good practices. Okay. I don't, probably because it's 1 o'clock, of course, and we are hungry, and maybe it's time to take a little break. We will come back here, and we are going to talk about more about what you were saying about the different part of the different block of participation, as you called, and we can also reach the end of our model. Thank you so much. Now we are really on the topic about the participation on power sharing. Okay. Veronica, I will start again.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were saying before the break that both Elisa and the other one, I don't remember the name, Elena, Elisa and Elena, this is why, talking about that the three concept, let's say, the three modalities, no, the three perspectives through which we look at the participation are linked, are not separate block. That is actually right. Because there is also the different role and the modality of power sharing that we could have in different learning contexts and opportunity and environment. Here you can see different drawings where there is one, in French we say bonhomme, one figure with E, that is educator, and L, that means learner. And there is level of interaction and power sharing among them. So there are the one lead by education. There is the one of consultation, where we both people on the same level and they share opinions and points of view. There are the collaboration, so where they really work together as a puzzle, so they contribute to achieve the outcome together. There is the learner-led, So it's the learner who decides content in a way, and process in a way. It's also the driver of the process. And there is, of course, no participation when there is educator-led. There are other, now I will show other little monsters on side, because also the meaning that we do and why, as I say, about participation. We could use participation also in not proper way. I mean, we can use as decoration. So we said, okay, yes, we make learners participate. Or as tokenism, because we know that it's à la mode, it's pushed to have participation, we can allow participation. And also in the worst use of participation of the manipulative way of participation. But let's talk about, let's give some brief example on our, for instance, consultation, as we say, the two design drawings with the education and learning who shared feedback, evaluation, and this could be evaluation survey and feedback on the quality, effectiveness of the trainers, or the results to check if the level of resource and the outcomes during the learning practices and the learning opportunity, and also to use the results for improve the practices, and participants are informed of the change made based on their feedback. Then there is a collaboration. One example is to peer-to-peer teaching, where students take on the role of teachers, so in sort of role-playing, by leading discussion, presenting information, facilitating group activities, of course, always under the guidance of the teacher. Then the learner-led, so student book club, for instance, where students take ownership of selecting, reading, and discussing book of their choice with minimal guidance from teachers. As I was saying, in a way, up to the learner who decide the content in a way, and in a way drive also the process. But of course, the process is always the main driver of the process, remain teacher. And in terms of power sharing, about level of influencer also, well, of course, in educator-led relationship, let's put in this way, there's no learner influence. The initiative is taken by the educators, the leadership, it's from the educators and also the management. While in the consultative mode, we have a bit of learner influence. What the learner said will be taken into account and be heard and included in a way in the learning opportunities, but the initiative is always up to the educators, the leadership as well, and the management. The collaborative way, we have a bit of more influence, of course, because it's sort of peer-to-peer activity. It's a peer-to-peer activity. The initiative is shared, the leadership is shared, and the management is shared. And of course, the maximum of the learning influence we have in the learning-led, and the initiative in this case is taken by the learner, the leadership is taken by the learner, but management is shared, as we said, in a way the learner has influence also on the process, but the main driver of the process remains the teacher. So, and this is where we come back on what shared before about the different blocks, as you call it, the way how we see participation. And this is where the cycle of educational practices. So we have the educators in the middle and the organization in a way, who decided to put in place an educational practices. So we need to define questions a priority. Normally the educator define questions a priority. Understanding what learners know and need. Design learning methods. Find and distribute resources. Implement learning activities. And evaluate and share insights. So these are all the steps and where the decision should be taken during the learning opportunity, the learning settings. And in every of these steps, we could have different level of power sharing with the learners. As we say, defining questions and priorities, if we took, for instance, the learner-led, it's where also there is already a sort of a participation of the learner into the cycle. And of course, there is around the wider community. And it's what I was saying, when we say before that there is different blocks, in a way, they could be all of them in one learning setting. Here, I could have the learner participation as well as the one of the teacher-led. So it depends why and the level of participation, the level of power that you want to give and provide to your learner. Understand what learners know and need, and could be a step of decision in the learning practice, where need to take a decision, understand what learners know and need, and this could be, for instance, by applying a collaborative approach and sharing with what is needed to what will be the outcomes of the learning and learning environment, learning opportunities. Design the methods, and we could apply, for instance, a consultative approach on participation. Find and distribute resources, and we could have also a collaborative way of implementing participation. Implement learning activity. Here we can have, for instance, a moment where, okay, you defined, as I was saying, also when the leading of the learning is the learner. He can define questions, he can define contents, but in a way, still the process is always driven by the teacher. So implementing learning activities could have also a more activation from the educators and teacher. And also evaluate and share insight. Also there is, of course, for sure, a consultative moment. But as we say, here we are providing example, but it's up to you as educator, as teacher, in which step you would include participation and at which level of participation from following this, which perspective. So as we say, this is clear that what we have said about different way of understanding participation are not different blocks, but it's part of a process. And of course, this is, I mean, also we can have as we say, the learner who drive the teacher, and also who can have an influence not only on the learning opportunity, but also inside the organization. So here another question for you, but still we have really no much time left. I will not keep 10 minutes, but just 5 minutes for you to reflect on what is your experience of sharing decision-making power with learners and staff, or staff have you experienced it, at what degree and decision? We already, in a way, answered a bit before before the break of the different way you see and you applied participation. But after this session, while explaining and showing you the circle of the learning opportunities, do you recognize yourself in this cycle, and where you recognize you have applied or you would like to apply the participation and the sharing of the power sharing with learner? I would like to hear some feedback from you, if you have in your experiences, or if you would like to learn more and to have more clarification on the different steps where you can have different approach of participation. I would like to hear, probably after the break, you have more energy to reply on the questions. I see that there are some also educator in the attendance, so in the participants, or those who are, I mean, I saw also that there are also a lot of students that maybe could share their level of participants in the learning process in their learning environment at university or in other environment. Not very? When we have to decide what would be the topic of this project for National Showcase in Civics, could you say more about that? Natalia?
Yes, I wanted, can I?
Yeah,
Could I?
please, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I just wanted to say that when we have to decide what would be the topic of our this year project for our national showcase in civics, then I let students to decide about it. They are giving examples of the topics, and later on they are giving scores, points to every suggestion, and at the end they decide what we are going to do and what would be the steps and how to solve that problem in local community that we are going to choose or something like that. So I can see that decision-making, sharing decision-making power with my learners in classroom in that way. I don't know if that's a good example, but
absolutely, yes. I would say also there is also a bit of lead by learner the subject. So you see, I mean, it's really matching both in a way, no? Proposal, you ask for the side, so you will let them lead in a way the process, but then
yes,
you apply collaborative approach to that. Thank you, Natalia. I hope I pronounced it well. I'm so bad with names. I see the hands up by El Medina.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Oh, thank you. Well, hello, Chiara. Hello to all participants. I was a little late in this session, so I don't know if in the beginning you have the opportunity to present yourself. So I will present myself and then I will answer. Well, I'm El Medina. I'm a teaching assistant at the Faculty of Education of the University of Pristina in Republic of Kosovo, and I'm very thankful for being part of this webinar and training. Regarding your things that you presented, I mainly go to all those steps because I passed my first experience as a teaching assistant, so it was the time to know better my students, to know better the learning styles, to know better what they really like as an activity, because there was a part that I had to do my presentations, the things that I had to lecture, but also making them more interesting to come and to listen to lectures. So when I also have, as I'm assistant, I also have the professor that has the lectures. I do the exercises, but also I had my subjects, my courses that I have to do my syllabus. So when I organize it, we mainly have 60% as an exam, and then 40% as 4 reflections or papers or assignments that they have to send to me. So mainly for these 4 assignments, I want to hear from them when it's more appropriate for them to send, because the semester goes very fast, and they have also other assignments that they have to do. So I want to hear their voice. We together decide when they want to send those assignments, so they will not be over too much work during the semester. And then also we discuss if during the semester we want to visit an institution, because mainly I teach to the students of pedagogy and also the master students. We also, as I worked as a career advisor for for 15 years, almost 16 years, I know how important it is for them to go also in the field to see something, not just lecturing and being at the faculty. So we always decide what we're going to do during the semester, and I always want to hear their voice so they can come with a will in the lecture. So that's why how I share the power, share how I hear their voice and hear their ideas about the work that we will do together during the semester. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nandina. Indeed, we need to stress also accountability of what they say. I mean, what the learner said. So what he shared or she shared or the learner shared, we need to take it into account and take over. Not only this is also one of the aspects that make differences among the different way of making learner participate in the process. Please, Ira, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you. I would like to build on Medina was saying, and also like to thank you for this great workshop. I'm really enjoying it. I work as a consultant, so with the previous work that I had, let's say that the way I can see it that resonates a lot with what you're presenting is that it is like it's a constant dialogue to allow that sharing of power. So from my experience, it just goes from one side to another, and at different stages is either us as consultants that take the lead, or then we pass the ball to the teachers, and then we make sure that we also allow students to do it. Like, and a quick example was a project that we have with tablets. So we came with this idea of enabling learning through technology. So, but we knew that our teachers, they were not very knowledgeable on that area, so that they will need like someone or sort of framework for them to start working around that. So we came with this idea, we came with this framework, but then along the way and through the experience and by talking and seeing how teachers interacted with the devices and the resources, we realized that we also needed to start like tweaking the professional development program that we have designed for them. We needed to tweak it with the teachers. We need to bring their voices in, and in order to understand better what were those competencies that they needed, so that they become competent enough to plan lessons that allow their students to become the leaders or the ones deciding what they wanted to learn, how they wanted to learn. So it was like a whole cascade of participation and power sharing, I'll say. So yeah, that's.
Thank you, Ira. So I see, so you started with learning for participation, and then learning through participation, and then learn in participation. So as we said, it's not a block, that it's a circle also.
Yeah,
the way
exactly.
how we allow our learners to participate. Thank you. Katarina.
Yes, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Great. So yes, thank you again for this amazing workshop, because it is definitely more than I have expected in terms of connecting the well-being and full potential of participants with educational practices. So in my case, I'm searching for work as pedagogical advisor and designer, so I can talk about my past experience in this case, which is that I started as youth educator. So that meant that I went on volunteering projects where I was teaching young people about soft skills and intercultural understanding. So for one example, I was involved a few years ago in a summer camp where a group of us, 10 trainers from different countries, came to learn, first of all, about how we can conduct workshops and do all the stages from defining questions and priorities all the way to evaluation and insights. And then it was us together who defined the whole concept of the summer camp, to start with the topics, choosing resources, materials, and then conducting the workshops. And of course, after each day, we had reflective circles when we were talking about what went well, what could be improved. And we also tried to include teenagers who are taking part in the summer camp in many active exchanges to see their perspectives, also to involve them in workshop activities, and also to learn from them what was good, what could be improved. So it was learning from everyone, and it was very learning by participation through active learning. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Katarina. Thank you. Really interesting, amazing what you did. And also you show again one more time that this really a process for participation. Francesca.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. So I am not a teacher. I am not an educator. I am a student in international and comparative education. And I don't really know if this is a good example, but I was thinking of my university experience. So I did my bachelor in Italy and I'm doing my master's in Sweden. And these countries' university systems have very different approaches. So in Italy, during our classes and our exams, we were basically required to listen and take notes and then study. And then the exam was basically questions where we were supposed to give the correct answer. So it was quite passive. But then in Sweden, they had us write essays at the end of every course. And that was basically our examination. And we had some guidelines, we had some requirements, because of course the essay was supposed to be pertinent to the course. But overall, I mean, we were quite free to choose our topic. And I feel that this helped me quite a lot, because for example, in my specific case, I could, for most essays, I could choose a topic that I'm still very interested in. And along with learning what I was supposed to learn from the university course, I was also learning contents about an area of education that I'm particularly interested in. And it felt more engaging because it's something that you chose to write about, and it's your work. You're not just passively answering questions. So I do think that it was a good way to engage us, and it definitely worked well with my learning. But again, I don't know if this is like a good example of what you said.
Absolutely, yes, Francesca, and I feel you because I'm Italian too, so I attended as well university in Italy, so I know well what you are saying about participation in the learning process in level of university, Italian university. There are some exceptions, I need to say, but still, we, I talk as Italian, needs to improve a bit more on that. Marta.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I want to share with you one method which I use during my classes with students. When I came to the class for the first time and I start work with groups, I ask them about expectation, but they do they write what their expectations are. Because as you mentioned, we have introverted and extrovertic people. So introvertic have chance to express their opinion. Of course, I have some standards of education, but they could write what methods of work they prefer, what topic they want to practice during our classes, and after when they write this their opinion, we discuss about this. So extrovert and introvert people could take part in this process and are involved in planning of the education. Thank you.
Thank you. So now to close our module, our session, our module of today, and waiting for the next one that will happen in the next 2 following Mondays, same timing. I would like to you to write in the chat one sentence that summarizes your experience of the session, or one improvement needed for next session and module. So really open your heart, mind, and use your fingers to type what your mind or heart or both said about your experience in the chat. Okay, I will trying to be the one. My experience of today, since it's normally this is my colleague who run and we will run and will deliver the next modules. My colleague Luis, who was the one who delivered the first online workshop, and I had the opportunity to run the first module today for this next second online workshop for iBox. And I say that I was again playing my diversity in the learning process, because also as I was the one who delivered the course, I was a learner as well. And I share with you the power to make my learning circle more diverse and, well, a good lesson learned. So my heart say that I'm happy, and my mind say that I learn a lot. So I'm reading some of them: challenging yourself, insightful, reflect about how we can look inclusion and accessibility, of course, and participation. And okay. So Sorry, there you can talk. Okay, so I will open the chat, or you can read it. Okay. So I will read it a bit. Let me see, because there are a lot. Okay, learning activity is crucial for participation. Everything was super smooth and I really enjoyed. Thank you. Challenging yourself as a learner, teacher, facilitator, or other stakeholder in this process is essential to improving access to learning environment and encourage participants in all its forms. Insightful and reflective about how we can look into inclusion that respect differences of learners, how well-being can be included into education, a great introduction to the topic. Thank you to you. It's important for us to reflect on where we are in this process. Are we on the right track, or is there something we need to adjust to improve? This webinar is a good opportunity to share thoughts of challenges we are facing so we can support each other and ensure we are moving in the right direction. Thank you, Lindina. Thank you to all. Sharing is caring. It was incredibly engaging to hear about the experiences and examples shared by the other participants. And I found it very informative to reflect on my own access to learning experiences and my role in fostering access and participation within the communities that I work with. Okay, we are just a few minutes more, 6 minutes to the end of this module. I would like to thank you, Xavier, because I would like to thank you all. So I thank you all, and I will, I hope to see you all next Monday